Hi everyone, welcome back to Canary Cast. Hope you're well. Before we go any further, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, because it helps us out massively. Anyway, we have a pre-season preview for you today, and in roundtable fashion, we thought we'd get some guests on from different corners of the Norwich City sphere. So, to help us discuss the upcoming Championship season, we have Michael Bailey of The Athletic for what is his second Canary Cast appearance. Fresh back from Germany. Michael, how are you after all that walking?
Fit.
Any idea how far you walked whilst you were there?
Oh, no, I wouldn't want to know either. I know that 12 kilometers was the longest session, and that was a long story that I won't bore you with now. But it was far enough for the week on its own. So yeah, good productive week.
I bet. Our other guest is Chris Reeve of Talk Norwich City. Chris, how you doing? Are you over the away kit yet?
No, I'm not, Joe. Just don't talk about the away kit, because I want you guys to try and monetize this video. That's all I'm going to say on the front. I'm fine apart from that. And thank you very much for inviting me on. It's so good to be on a unique fan channel that's trying to put their own spin on things and doing things properly. I've got a lot of admiration and respect for you guys. So thank you for having me on.
Jacob's here too, if anyone cares. Probably not. That's it. How you doing, mate?
It's nice to see you back for a change, mate. Only come on when the big guns on, don't you?
Yeah, part-time of me. No, I was on my pre-season break.
Yeah. Bring a holiday form next time.
I will do. I'll fill that out for you next time. Anyway, let's crack straight on, gents. So we're aiming to cover transfers pre-season, and then we're going to stick our necks on the line even and do some sort of expectations and predictions towards the end of the video, which is always a bit dangerous, but there we go. Right, let's talk transfers then. So instead of me guiding us through the list of completed transfers, I thought I'd ask you all which of the signings excites you the most, and then we'll have a little discussion about them. So let's go Chris first. Chris, who's floating your boat?
Mr. Dowell is massively floating my boat. To be fair, Skip is as well, but I'd have to say Dowell over Skip. I'm so excited about the fact. It's so weird. Maybe it's just like the journey we've been on, but I'm actually excited because I know him. If that makes sense. Like, I'm excited that I know someone that we're signing, and I think that signing someone with championship experience is actually really important. We've got a few leaders in there, arguably not enough for me, but you have to complement those new guys coming in, those unknowns, with people that know the league. I think that's quite important. Call me old-fashioned, but I think that's crucial. And I think Kieran Dowell could well be the next Johnny Howson. That's my big bold prediction putting on the line already. I think that he has got what it takes to in terms of his skill set and his arsenal that he's got. I think that he's got the right attributes to potentially be the next Johnny Howson for Norwich City.
Superb. Michael, are you expecting to see Dowell in the 10 or further back in the midfield?
I don't know if you'll see him go much further back, if I'm honest. And I've seen a few people sort of say that he can do that. I think it's more of a question of whether he'll play 10 or across from the right coming in, which Daniel Farke tried in the appearance against Darmstadt in Germany on Saturday. But I think he's predominantly there as the 10. It'll be interesting what those frontline options look like once the transfer window closes, because we don't know who's going to be in and not. I mean, having seen them all, which I find myself quite privileged to be in that position. I agree with Chris completely. Kieran Dowell is a player who I've seen play several times and just thought, well, he looks a good player. And to sign someone who you're aware of having watched before, and like maybe someone like Miley Watkins, who you'd seen play for Barnsley several times and not even piqued your interest, is encouraging. Dowell's work rate and pressing, which is obviously something that they worked a lot on in Germany, that really impressed me. I think if that's a level that I've seen from him already that he can sustain, then I have really high hopes for what he can do, because his quality is undoubted. But it's the question marks over why it didn't work for him at Derby on loan and little things like that maybe are the sort of slight question marks. But yeah, really impressive. I'd have to say Ollie Skip as well. Yeah. Just in the first time I've seen someone and just gone, oh, Alex Tettey might not just have this to himself here. Admittedly, Ibrahim Amadou had all sorts of things going on around him with the centre backs and things like that. So, but Ollie looks a really competent player, given how young he is. He sort of fits into a player that Norwich have been able to get because they can get him on loan, and so he's going to have a bit of development to go. But I think those two have probably been the two that really stood out in pre-season. And I'll throw in the caveat I throw in everywhere, including all my own stuff. I hate pre-season and I hate making judgments in pre-season because it's basically impossible. But we've got to have a little go, and those are the two that I'm probably excited about seeing most at this moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about Skip. I think it's a bit of a coup. I was watching the first 3 episodes of the new Spurs documentary last night, and it sort of reminded me of just how much he was involved in that squad. Like, he's been played Champions League games, and supposedly Mourinho wanted to keep him there this season. I do think that's a proper good signing. That is the one I'm really excited for. Jacob, who are you most excited by?
No, yeah, really excited by Ollie Skip. Michael kind of burst all our bubbles with the Ethan Ampadu thing, didn't you?
You're the second people to tell me that this week.
But yeah,
I think there were bubbles inside Norwich that were burst. Obviously, they knew about it before I did, but yeah, I think it was just a general bubble burst, that one.
No, yeah, definitely. I think, Ollie Skip looked really exciting. I think when I saw a video before he went out on loan, and kind of talking about if he was to go out on loan, where he'd go, what the team would have to offer him, and the role he'd be playing. So yeah, he's really got his career kind of planned out for the next few years, and hopefully Norwich can help with that. The one I'm really interested in, just because I have no idea how it's going to go, it's either going to be Yannick Vilscher or Darren Huckabee and Aston El-Sinani.
Wow.
Yeah. He's got a pedigree in Europe, which makes me convinced that he's going to be Ballon d'Or winner. But he scored twice against Sevilla, European winners. He's got a finish on him. I just have no idea where he's going to play. That's the only caveat to that.
You wouldn't mess with him down there. Sorry, you go.
Can you shed any light on where he might play, Michael?
Well. I don't know what to make of him yet. I think there are still people at Norwich who are a bit like, I'm not sure what we're going to do with him. And I think, again, there is an element of if Norwich, do sell Todd and Emmy, I suppose, then maybe they're at the gaps that start opening up. I don't think they're seeing him as a front line option at the moment, mainly because they've got obviously Adam Eder and Jordan Hugill now, but then Daniel Farke does like him in this sort of false 9 position, and then that could still be an option as their actual focal point of the attack. He is really raw because he in the games I saw him play, and he sort of gave the ball away once or twice, but then there's a real spark there with what he can do with the ball as well. And I don't think I get the sense Daniel's not quite convinced yet, in that he probably just isn't ready, and he's going to want to spend some time working on him. I still think that a loan is perfectly a plausible option at the moment. So I just don't think anyone really knows. He is a really interesting signing, and I think everyone's just trying to figure it out, and probably there isn't much pressure on it at the moment, especially given the size of the squad. I mean, if Dan El-Sinani was your only forward signing of the summer, then you'd probably be panicking a little bit, but he certainly isn't that.
You wouldn't mess with him down a dark alley, would you, Dan? Boys, just to quickly go back to Ollie Skip, to drop it in there, I messaged Max Aarons about it, and I said, you've played with him before, the England setup, what's he like, what's he all about? And he said to me on no uncertain terms, he gave it the Michael Bailey as well, I don't want to say it before he's played any games, I don't want to make any big judgments, but he's one of the best players in that position in his age group. He was like raving about him, saying just how good of a tackler how he just gets across the pitch. He's got so much energy. And actually as well, I think that's also very positive news when you're trying to keep our top players at the club. We've bought in, I know Hugill's a bit rough around the edges potentially, but we've spent a decent amount of money on him. And we've managed to somehow bring in Skip as well. you would maybe look at that if you're a Max Aarons, if you're Emi Buendia, potentially Todd Cantwell, and say, well, actually, hang on a minute. They're giving it a good go here. So actually, I think that I might stay around. So I don't think that's something that a lot of the Norwich City pundits are speaking about at the moment. That funnily enough, I actually think our new transfer business is possibly even going to keep some of our top talent here as well, which for me is super exciting. But I just wanted to say that I've said that on the TNC podcast before as well. But Max really, really raved and absolutely loves Ollie Skip. So that can only be a real positive sign.
Absolutely, yeah. Gents, are we a centre-back short from completing our summer window? What do we think, Michael?
Well, Chris is answering it with his thumbs, which probably won't work audibly, but will visually. Well, I think they are. And I sense that I'm not the only one who thinks that, and that it's a sentiment inside the club. Obviously, the Ben Gibson speculation has been out there for a while, and I'm certainly not rubbishing that, because I think that's certainly something they're working on. But it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because again, I would say that that's the last bit of business they'll probably do. It's probably the one area where if they sold Ben Godfrey, they would be short. If they sold anyone else, I think they could probably cover it off. It would only be an issue if they maybe sold 2 or 3. So, yeah, I think that's the gap. But there is kind of an issue with if they didn't sell Ben Godfrey, they would have 5 centre-backs. And, just the general issue around the squad, I suppose, that I don't know how you keep half of this squad happy when only half of them are playing. And Alex Tettey doesn't know that either, because when we asked him in Germany, he basically cried and said, "It's not my problem. I don't know. That's why I'm not going to be a manager." So yeah, I think that's what will happen, and it's just probably between whether Norwich and Burnley can sort themselves out to make that actually happen. But and then I'm sure there are other targets if not. But it's the dynamic in the squad is fascinating, because I guess people won't want to leave if everything's going well, because they might get a chance. So it just probably puts a little bit of extra oomph onto the fact they need a quick start.
Do you think Ben Gibson's the man, Michael? Like the 1-2 go to?
Yeah, there's a really interesting piece on Ben Gibson on The Athletic, which was written in January when he was being linked with Watford, because, Burnley spent a lot of money on him and he just completely evaporated. And there's obviously been a falling out, and the character hasn't sort of fitted in. When his name was first mentioned to me, I was like, oh, okay. And then the more I thought about it, the more his championship experience. He's obviously captain at Middlesbrough, a big character, and whether he would be happy not playing if he came here, or how that would work, I don't really know. But yeah, I think there would be a lot of elements that would be really useful. And obviously it's only 27, I think, so he's at an age where he's still got time to and obviously a bit of hunger given what's happened in recent years. So yeah, to be honest, I think it would be quite an astute signing.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. The only names we haven't mentioned are Jacob Sorensen, Poeta, and Xavi Quintilla. Jacob, I'll push them in your direction.
I like the look of Sorensen. I think he's a lot bigger than what I expected. Michael will probably agree with me, actually seeing him up in the flesh in terms of height. I see the scrunch face. In terms of Quintilla, I think he's going to be back up. I don't see Lewis going now, with Leicester being linked with kind of other left backs. So I think Sam McCallum could go out on loan. And then who was the last one? Oh, Poeta. Yeah, absolute rapid, mate. Left-footed Onel Hernandez for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine both of them running at Championship fullbacks. Yeah, right. That covers the incomings. Let's briefly mention outgoing transfers, because it seems like Tom Tribal's off. Chris, that's someone you've spent a bit of time with, along with Anna. Do you want to give a little homage to Tom Tribal?
Yeah, I think so. I am a bit disappointed with the reaction of some pockets of supporters. I think Tom Tribal is a player that personifies what the new Norwich City was. He was one of Daniel Farke's first signings. He works incredibly hard. He gives back all the time. He's got absolutely no ego whatsoever, which I think is actually quite nice. And I'm sure you boys will feel free to correct me, and people in the comments or Twitter or whatever can correct me. But from the statistics I've seen, Tom Tribal is still our best CDM, and I'm happy to die on my sword on that. I think that Alex Tete is a fantastic servant to the football club. He's a great leader. He's more of a leader than Tom Tribal. But in terms of a complete CDM or holding midfielder, I still think Tom Tribal absolutely had what it would take in the Championship. I know that we keep mentioning that Leeds performance. I know he's not necessarily done it consistently enough, but my argument is I don't think he's been given enough of an opportunity. We tried to put Moritz in there. We've tried to kind of play around with Mario Vrancic in there. Then Tete, in fairness, in the Premier League, really took a claim on that spot and deserved to stay in the squad. But yeah, for me, I'm absolutely gutted that Tom's gone. And actually, with nothing else, just the off the pitch stuff as well, which sounds a bit funny, but I just love the fact that him and Anna gave so much to the community of Norwich and Norfolk, giving to charities and giving everyone their time of day. And it's just been a bit disappointing for me reading some of the tweets that fans have said about Tom's attitude. That's just a complete, utter farce. It's a complete, utter nonsense. That is based on absolutely nothing apart from just made up rubbish. So, yeah, I'm disappointed that Tom's gone, but also I'm not blind to the fact that we absolutely are capable of signing a better player. I definitely think that Skip's your first name on the team sheet in that position now. So perhaps it is the right time to move on.
I'm sure there will be other outgoings. Michael, are you hearing anything? Are we expecting any outgoings imminently?
No.
Okay. We would imagine it would be...
which is something that has amused me for several weeks, I have to be honest. This idea that no one leaves. But I'm not expecting anyone to imminently go anyway.
There's got to be a late flurry of activity for me. There has to be. I think.
Oh, sorry, Chris. Sorry, cut off.
I was just going to say, Michael, but I want you to pin on to this. I think that Stuart Webber has played hardball big time with the transfer business, which I think is the right way to do it. But it's very much a case of hold your ground, hold your ground, hold your ground. Oh crap, we've got too many defenders. We need to now sell. I think, and I think that there are, out of the 5, in my opinion, really sellable players. We mentioned Ben Godfrey, for example. I think that now could be potentially the right time to potentially try and offload a player like that whilst their stock is high, because I just think a couple of those lads are going to get found out in the Championship, because I think it is weirdly a little bit more aggressive than the Premier League. So for me, that's where I stand on it.
It's crazy to think that we could go through this window and not lose any of those big 5 you mentioned, Chris. Jacob, what do you think our chances are of actually doing that? Because you just said you don't think Jamal Lewis will go. We haven't had an awful lot on the rest. It would be crazy, though, wouldn't it, if we managed to keep them all?
Well, you've got to kind of take into the whole Corona COVID kind of aspect of it, don't you? And I think, like Chris said, that Stuart Webber's playing hardball. If you don't pay the price, you're not getting the player. And I think potentially clubs look at these players, and obviously we shipped a lot of goals last season. I guess that was our open style of play. But do you back a centre-back who's conceded 74, who's been part of a team that's conceded 75 goals, who is worth £30 million? Do you take that risk on him? For me, Ben Godfrey is not worth that amount of money at the moment. I think he turns like a bit of a bust for a man who has got the pace and the frame he does. And other players, I think there's still aspects of their game that they could improve. I think the only one that was up there and kind of solid in terms of can improve was Jamal Lewis, and that's why Liverpool were looking at him. It wouldn't surprise me if Arsenal were kind of... Bellerin is linked with a few big teams, PSG, Juventus. I would not be surprised if Max Aarons is potentially on their list. But the only one for me that I massively think you can't get rid of if you can try and keep on to him is Emi Buendia, because the fact we haven't won a league game without him in the 2 years he's been here, I think speaks volumes, really.
Yeah.
It's a really lovely... I think actually we're in a bit of a luxurious position, lads, which we've not really spoken about, which is, okay, for example, let's take Jamal and Max, yeah? If we manage to keep them, both of those players, in my humble opinion, will absolutely boss the Championship. And if nothing else, will provide almost experience for those new lads that are coming in, providing they don't go on loan. However, I know Sam McCallum is a little bit rough around the edges, but I've got so much belief in that lad for him to hit the ground running if he was given the opportunity. It very much reminds me of when Max Aarons was thrown in against Ipswich away, by the way, and absolutely absolutely smashed it out of the park. And then on the other side, you've got Xavi Quintilla, and I've been so impressed with him in pre-season. I know it's pre-season. I love the fact that he bombs down the wing. I love the fact that he's been blessed by Javier Garrido himself, and I love the fact that he's not afraid to put a cross in. You know, we're crossing the ball early. We're putting pressure on the opposition again. So for me, either way, you keep your two kind of solid defenders there, fine. But if we sell them, if we have to sell them, or for whatever reason we go, I genuinely believe with those boys that we brought in, we've got the resource there to still be pushing for promotion regardless.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, that boxes off transfers nicely. Let's move on to the pre-season campaign. It looks pretty good on paper. I mean, 14 goals scored, 2 conceded. No real big opposition. I know Darmstadt are a decent Zweibundesliga team, and Dynamo Dresden have only just dropped down to the Dritte Liga, so they're sort of half respectable teams. But I think that was probably the point of this season, wasn't it? This pre-season, Michael, to sort of get the confidence up again. Yeah,
I think they needed a proper reset in their mentality, because the end of last season was woeful. There is a lot of refresh, and I think you can see that from the new players, and so many of the new players coming in, that it's clearly given the place a lift and a real hunger, and also the ones who are, you know, introducing them, and especially maybe the ones who, as you sort of touched on earlier, might have thought they were going to be somewhere else. They're looking across and thinking, okay, these guys have come in, they look hungry, and they're, you know, going to play. So what am I going to do about this? And I think there's probably a bit of soul searching in some of those players, and some of them, I have no doubt their mentality will be absolutely fine and they'll crack on and they'll be a real key part of it. I think others might have to sort of figure that out for themselves, and it might be quite interesting how that pans out. What I will just add on the transfer window is this transfer window is going to go on for ages, because it's basically open for Norwich until the middle of October, because Premier League clubs can swing in. So if Max Aarons hasn't gone and is playing really well in the Championship, and someone decides, well, actually we've got to go and get a right back, they'll just throw a load of money at it, if they decide that is the right moment. So Norwich getting a big squad in and they're all set for the replacements sort of before they sell these players, I think makes a lot of sense. Also, just to reiterate, Norwich can play hardball because they don't actually need the money now. They can get it in January, and then if we get to next summer, it might not even matter so much if say a certain player who was worth a lot hasn't played a lot and their value's gone down, because that would probably mean someone else's value has risen, or at least then you're still getting the market value. I think the key thing about this window would be selling someone where their value should be here and selling them below, because at that point you're then struggling to get the same value for your other players, and you can lose a lot of money over quite a few deals at that point. So I've got no real issue with it. I have to say it depends who comes in and what they offer, and I don't mind Norwich playing that hard ball with them. So yeah, everything good in pre-season, but it only really counts once the league starts. Once you get 3, 4, 5 games in and 10 players haven't featured, when they've spent the last 6 weeks going, well, obviously I'm going to play, and then they don't, because not everyone can. That will be when it becomes difficult. And also, if Norwich do have setbacks in those competitive games, that is when you start to get the muscle memory of how bad last year was. You know, if they go behind after 5 minutes at Luton or at Huddersfield, how do they react to that? You know, because that's when memory of West Ham and Burnley will suddenly pop into their head. So lots of big questions for them to answer and to be able to cope with, definitely.
You're in Germany, of course. Did you manage to get sort of a feel for the mood in the camp? Is there anything that stood out to you that you weren't expecting to see?
I suppose the key thing for me was that I didn't really think about last season while I was out there, and it did feel really fresh. I didn't really sit there talking to people thinking, oh, should we rake over last season again? Because it felt done, and it felt done from a proportion of me sort of asking questions, and that freshness, which was sort of emanating from the way they were interacting with each other. And generally, everyone seemed in a pretty good place, I would say. Certainly, I think, as I said, the energy of the new signings and the real sharpness in how they were doing things on the pitch, and then a sort of, you know, relaxed feel to it off the pitch. So that was really encouraging, because I'd kind of forgotten about last season. And if I am, as an external observer, then they clearly have at the moment. going into it. And that's the best situation they could possibly be in going into the first games.
Agreed. Chris, what have you made of it? Are you encouraged by pre-season?
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I'm in the confidence camp. I think for me, it was just a massive confidence exercise. Getting the lads out there, putting some goals, putting some goals in the back of the net, and really just kind of pushing forwards and trying to assert ourselves on games. I think, of course, you can't take too much from it because of the opposition, but I quite enjoyed getting excited about it as a fan again. I really enjoyed that. I'm a bit bored of this whole opinion of, oh, well, you can't get excited about preseason. Why the hell not? We've just been served up dross time after time after time in the Premier League restart. And I mean dross, like some of the worst football that we've seen in seasons, honestly. I mean, the Houghton era was dross, but that Premier League restart was woeful. Like, I'm pretty sure we scored more goals, in our period of like real drought under Chris Houghton as well. So I think that was really disappointing, and to be able to kind of bounce back from that in terms of results and confidence, I think that's important. In line with what Michael's just said there about, it seems good in the camp. What I would say is, it seems good in the camp, but I do think there's the risk of it being very fragile. And you all saw the reaction of Ben Godfrey when there was the mistake between Ben and Tim for that goal in pre-season. And it's one mistake on paper, but it very much reminds me of last season. I don't want to bring the tone down because I know we're trying to be positive and upbeat, but I do want to try and be realistic and say Stuart Webber's got his work cut out here, and there is a risk of a culture crisis, because if you keep all of these players that have been beaten up and bullied and they've lost so many games of football, and then you've got all of these happy-go-lucky new boys that are in town, that's going to be really difficult for Daniel Farke to manage those conversations, particularly because he's the kind of guy that sticks with the team and only really changes it if someone gets injured. So I think it's going to be super interesting the rest of this window. But my observations are, it seems good, but I still think it's fragile. So I think as supporters, we need to try and keep calm, but at the same time, to completely contradict myself, let's get excited about the fact that we are playing some good stuff again. We are playing some good stuff again, aren't we? And I think that we can all take encouragement from that.
Jacob, I'll come to you to wrap up on pre-season. Both Michael and Chris have touched on it already, but is there an argument to say that the Championship might be a bit of a baptism of fire for the new lads, especially after such an easy pre-season?
Yeah, potentially, but I think the supporters not being there will help with that. It's kind of 11v11 then, and the kind of the intimidating atmosphere you can get from some of the grounds just obviously won't be there. The one thing I really picked up from pre-season, which impressed me, was Teemu Pukki. It felt like he was back. I know obviously there was a couple of missed chances, which you're thinking, oh, crikey, is he going to be? I think I can't remember where I saw it now, but I saw like quotes saying this could be Teemu Pukki for the last couple of years. He's just peaked and now could be back at his usual level. But for me, he was pressing hard. He was looking hungry, which is the most important thing, because at the end of the day, he is probably arguably Norwich's most important player because he puts the ball in the back of the net, which wins you games.
But Jacob, give him chances, mate. This is it. This is the most important thing. Give that man more chances and he puts the ball in the back of the net. In the Premier League restart, he had one or two. And I mean one or two, honestly. Look at the statistics. It's ridiculous. Did we give Teemu the ball enough? Did we give Teemu enough support in that Premier League restart? No, we didn't. The midfield were absolutely on the floor. We didn't provide enough service to him at all. And even if you look at all of the moans in times gone by of strikers that we've had, Cameron Drome, I remember, he was always lathered with he works hard and, we can't hit a barn door, but he banged in the goals because we gave him service. And I'm again really encouraged by the signings that we brought in. Dowell, Emi Buendia, Todd Cantwell. These players can thread the ball through to Teemu Pukki, and they can definitely do it in the Championship. If they're not doing it in the Championship, it's fraud. It's complete fraud, because those boys have done it before. They've done it before. They've won the league. They've got that medal around their neck. So I agree with your observations, Jacob. It'll be good for the players to not play in front of the fans. But I actually also do kind of expect Teemu to hit the ground running, because he should be getting the service this season. He has to get the service this season. And if he's not, then Daniel Farke needs to seriously look at himself in the mirror and think, well, what am I doing wrong here? I've got to change it again. But again, Timu Pukki, great to see him scoring in the preseason. Definitely.
Just one for the Huddersfield game, the first league game. Timu Pukki has scored with his first shot on target in each of the last 8 seasons. His first shot on target will be hopefully not from his head.
Will be some money going on that, let me tell you. Anyway, right, let's look forward to the first sort of 5 fixtures. Before we do that, we will quickly do the Carabao Cup fixture, because I fear it might be the only chance we get to talk about it. So we're without 15 players for the game at Luton on Saturday. I believe it is Cantwell, Aarons, Godfrey, Skip, Krull, McGovern, McLean, Jamal Lewis, Poeta, Ida, Sorensen, Sinani, and then Buendia and Drummich through suspension. We do have Pukki, though, I think. Michael, no place for him in the Finland squad. Any idea why?
No.
That's because I looked and I was like, Pukki's not on that list. I just thought it was a bit weird.
Is he? I don't know. I haven't seen that.
I'm pretty sure he's not in the squad. I was trying to find it, but his name was not there.
What I would say, Jacob, what I would say, Joe, sorry, is actually, I never thought I'd say this. This is the time where we need DJ Josip, because of course he absolutely bangs in the goals against Luton. That was when we all got sold the dream. So it's a shame to see that, Josip's not going to be in the mix for this game.
Yeah. Jacob, how are you feeling? Are you confident? Oh, sorry, Michael, go on.
Sorry, I was going to say he was in the Finland squad 5 days ago.
Okay, it's me.
Yeah, I was going to say I think the only thing he did get a slight knock in the last game. He took like a heavy fall, but no, Timu will be away. Carry on.
That's gone well. Right, so we haven't got people. So, lads, are we feeling confident? Are we going to knock Luton out? I'm not. I think they're quite a strong, robust team, and I think without all those players and a third or fourth choice keeper, I think we could struggle. Jacob, I'll come to you first.
I agree with you in no way, shape or form, mate. I think we'll comfortably beat them. I don't think they're the greatest side in the world. They're not that robust. I think they play nice football and that can be detriment to them. I think the only shame is that they're the only player who's unavailable for them is Sluga, I believe, who makes cock-ups quite regularly. They're an interesting side, but let's be honest, I think even looking with we've still got a strong enough squad there, in my opinion, to beat them, yeah.
Chris, confident?
Well, we've still got arguably an 8 to 10 million pound striker up top. We've still got an El Hernandez. We've got a young keeper in between the sticks that's going to be literally doing anything to make the best impression of himself. I think this is a very valid point. We're missing a lot of players, but if you were to go through the list, Joe, of the players that we have got for that game, you'll be confident. By the end of that list, you'll read it and you'll go, yeah, I quite fancy us there. Yeah, Luton are going to kick the shit out of us. They are. They're going to hurt us, right? That's what they're going to do. They're going to hurt us. They're going to kick us. They're going to try and bully us out of the game, as always, when we play them. But the team that we play, right, has absolutely got what it takes. I know that sounds arrogant. I'm sure Luton will be very resolute. I'm sure it'll be a very tight, close affair. And I've got all of the respect in the world that they're in the Championship. I think that's fantastic. But for me, we should absolutely be beating them.
Just briefly, Michael, are you off to Kenilworth Road?
I will be there. I cannot wait.
Looking forward to it. What do you think will be the outcome?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, but as Chris said, if you say like Mumba, Zimmerman, Closer, and Kintia as your back four, and then Tetty and who else would there be? Tetty and someone else, Marco, Kieran Dow, Anel Hernandez, Jordan Hugill up front. You've got an 11 there that should beat Luton, or certainly capable of it. But the 11 I watched play at Crawley last season, which should have been a League Two side and didn't. So you never know. I'm in the balance as to whether it matters as well. I mean, there's an idea that because I think the cup will be midweek for coming weeks. in terms of each round. So if Norwich are knocked out, they get a full week to prepare just for the league, which is great. By the same token, they've got a huge squad and they're probably quite happy to have the extra games to keep people happy for longer. So I think I'd rather they stayed in the competition. But I don't know. That's the problem with pre-season. You just don't know how geared they are to sort of hitting the ground running. But if they put the energy in that I've seen, then I'd like to think that they will make a really positive start, I must admit.
Okay, great. So that's Carabao Cup covered. Let's look at the first 5 league games. So for context, Huddersfield away, Preston at home, Bournemouth away, Derby at home, and Rotherham away. Jacob, I'll come to you first for a change. How many points are we looking to get out of that?
Well, you've got to be optimistic, mate. I think Huddersfield and Bournemouth definitely are kind of unknown quantities. Huddersfield, difficult one because obviously Carlos Corberán's got in there. They're they're looking at selling potentially their best player in Carlin Grant. But the rest of the teams, they're solid, aren't they? I don't know what to expect from Bournemouth yet. Again, they've lost their main goalkeeper, main centre-back, and potentially going to be losing their 2 main strikers. So difficult to know. Then Preston, obviously solid. And Derby, again, good young players in there, but in the fringes of the playoffs last season. But I would still reckon we can beat them. It's difficult to say, mate. Like Michael said, I think you'll see how hungry and how ready the players are from that first 15, 20 minutes from Huddersfield.
Chris, I think it was quite a friendly start, if I'm honest with you. I don't think it's too bad, especially with Bournemouth now losing a few players.
Joe, I fancy us against Bournemouth all day long. I really do. When we played them in the Premier League, and by the way, I'm so pleased they're back in the Championship. I really am. They're such a tin pot football club. I'm delighted that they're back where they belong, and I'll be delighted when we get one over them as well. I really will. I was so surprised that we didn't beat them at their own gaff last season. To be honest with you, I think that actually summed up just how poor we were, because we had to beat them that day, and God knows how we didn't, to be very honest with you. I know that Tom Tribal, to say a name, was, I think, hit the post that day or hit the crossbar, something like that. And El Hernandez had just come back from fitness. So, yeah, 100%. And I think Bournemouth are going to be all over. I mean, I'm sure they'll be organised again, like always, like all Championship teams are. But for me, I'm fine with that. Derby is a bogey team for Norwich. That's always going to be a struggle. Preston, there's the Alex Neil factor. Huddersfield, for me, I think we should be beating them. I wouldn't say it's necessarily friendly, Joe, but I would say we should be expecting, potentially 6 to 9 points return there.
Yeah. Michael, are we going to see a fast start here, or are we going to have a hangover from the Premier League? What are you expecting?
It's a really interesting one, because I've seen Norwich get relegated and make a really good start, and then it's kind of later in the autumn where the hangover kicks in as well. So it's really difficult to call. I don't know if much about the Championship is friendly. I never think of it as much friendly, but I definitely take your point. I think Huddersfield away is an interesting game. Obviously, it'll be the first time Stuart Webber's gone back there since he left. They are going to be fairly unpredictable, and they struggled a lot last year. I can see what Bournemouth are trying to do with sort of appointing Eddie Howe's assistant as their new manager, but whether that's right, they're in a difficult position if they haven't planned for it properly, which they should have really been doing for a while. So there's a sort of an unknown there. Derby were very good on the restart, actually, and it looked like Philip Cocu was starting to get them to purr a little bit. So quite where they are, they could be a bit more of a challenge this year than they probably were last. Rotherham under Paul Warne, which is always fun. And likewise Preston with Alec Neil, to be honest. I mean, it's quite the thing you do is you look through the sort of Championship fixture list, is you start to remember how hard it is when you kind of looked at it and gone, oh well, this, the Championship's nothing compared to the Premier League, which is so tough. And then you end up looking at Championship fixture list and you're like, oh yeah, that Blackburn away, yeah, that's not easy, is it? And then, oh gosh, we've got Watford, they've just come down. Actually, they might be quite stable. In terms of insightful predictions, I've kind of learned over the years not to make that with the Championship, which is obviously crap when you're trying to answer a question like this. But I think I think what I'm looking for is what I'm looking for from Norwich, they're kind of the staple things. You know, Norwich need to lose fewer than 10 games next season. They need to take 2 points per game. I want to see them looking just as fluid in attack, and I want to see them pressing really hard, but I do want to see them consuming fewer goals than 2 years ago. That's the improvement I'm looking for. So they're all the signs I want to see in the first 5 games, even giving them some leeway, because even when they won the championship, they had a pretty indifferent first 5 games. So I could almost afford them that, but I want to see the positive signs, and I want to see those elements.
Yeah.
What I would say is, I think it's so important that we come out of the gates like a dog on steroids. I think it's so important. I really do, because I think that if you don't see Norwich City, make an encouraging start, the fans will definitely get on Daniel Farke's back. That's completely out of our control, of course, and I hope they don't, of course, but it's very predictable that they will if we don't make a really positive start and come out of the traps. And I think we should. I think we have to. We have to see a difference. I don't want to hear patience anymore. We've done the patience game now. We have, and I know it's hard, and I know that this might seem scathing or potentially arrogant, but we have to start. We've just come down from the Premier League. We have to be asserting our dominance on the league. We have to be putting our flag in the ground saying, we're Norwich City and we're here to get promoted. We're not going to scrape a draw at Huddersfield. We're not going to scrape a draw at Bournemouth. Come on, we seriously need to prove our soul. And there's a huge amount of pressure on Stuart Webber. There's a huge amount of pressure on Daniel Farke. And, would I like to be them? Absolutely not. But it's so important that we start well. I know that Michael said, quite often, we kind of start okay-ish and then we really go up at the end. But for me, I would rather see us start well and kind of just then trudge through into the playoffs. For me, we have to start well, because the fans need to see that the boys have got that confidence to go and take themselves to the Premier League again. It's as simple as that. We have to be bold, and I do think it's fair that we should expect the team to come out of the traps. They have to, right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll move on. It's that time we're all looking forward to, expectations and predictions. Stick our neck on the line. Someone will drag it up at a later date, I'm sure. We'll try and make this fairly quick fire. So let's start with an easy one. Where are we going to finish? And I want a number. Starting with the easy ones.
Right.
I'll start. I'll go second.
Yes, please.
Jacob,
Okay.
go on.
It's a difficult one. This, like Michael said, when you look at the ugly games of Sheffield Wednesday, Blackburn away, you can see potentially the fragile mindset of Norwich of last season crumbling. Top 6 really should be the expectation. I'm not sure if we'll finish there, so I will say 5th, but I'm not sure on that.
Okay, Michael, come to you.
This squad, and given they've done it before, they should win it.
No, that is big. That's quite big, Mike.
Open that up.
Say that, yeah. Right, how do you follow that up, Chris? Go on, give it a go.
Honestly, I was watching Michael's body language there and thinking, cool, he's really uncomfortable with that. And then he just popped out. I love that. I agree, and that's given me so much confidence. I wish you hadn't said that now. For me, I'm going to go slightly more reserved, and I'm going to say 3rd. But I am going to say that we're going to win the playoffs, Wembley glory again, and you're going to see El Hernandez make a blistering start at the Wembley Stadium.
Can I just say that the 17-year-old fan in me is punching me in the face at the moment, saying, "What are you doing?" Because this is the Championship. You know how hard it is. You know these things don't work out like that. But I have thought about this quite a lot, and they got a lot of leeway last year, and I gave them leeway because this is a bigger picture, and the idea is that it was pretty sapping what happened last year, but the idea is that the team keeps improving, and so if they're going to do that, and I look at the squad and they are improving. Daniel Farke should not be a worse head coach than he was a year ago. So obviously, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen because there's so many elements, mental as well as physical and literal. But look at the squad. Look at where they are, There you go. That's it. That's all I'm saying on the matter.
It is hard not to get carried away, I will admit it. Okay, so we all think we'll be sort of top end of the league. Who are our biggest rivals? Who are the teams you're worried about? Throw some names at me. I'll put Brentford out there if they keep Ben Rama and Watkins.
Watford, 100% Watford. Watford are going to win the league without doubt. I'll be so surprised if they don't. If they can keep that, if they keep that squad, if they can keep that squad, they will destroy the league 100%. But if they sell players, there's an element of the fact that they will struggle. Of course, they brought in another manager again, which won't help them. But you look at the amount of money that they've spent on the caliber of player there. They have to be at the top of that league for the majority of the season. So for me, Watford are definitely the main competitor for us next season.
Michael?
Yeah, it's hard to look beyond those two. Something about Middlesbrough and Neil Warnock that just makes you think, oh, that would be sod's law that they suddenly. There's no logic to that, but there wasn't any logic when Cardiff did it. And that's the thing about the Championship. You just never know who's suddenly going to turn up and have a squad that beats. Yeah, and I've always thought this since I sat in the Barclay, that you only need to beat 15 of the teams. You don't have to be capable to beat the top ones. You just need to beat the rest, and you can accumulate enough points to go up. I think Derby might be strong. And Blackburn had a good season last season. Preston, Alex sort of got a tight-knit group without wishing to throw cliches out there. But it was phenomenally close for a lot of the season last season in terms of fighting for the playoffs. So I think that if you're good enough to consistently beat that middle level of teams squabbling for the playoffs, then I think that's what sets you apart. And I do think there are only going to be 5 or 6 teams that are even capable of doing that next season. 1 or 2 might be complete surprises as we look into the season, which, don't forget, Norwich were 2 seasons ago. So we'll see. But yeah, that's probably as much as I can put in terms of insight.
Okay. One last question. Which of the new signings will have the biggest impact? And Jacob, I'll come to you because I just missed you out.
Yeah. New signing for me, it will be Ollie Skip.
Yeah, I agree with you. Chris?
I think it's more likely to be Dowell, but I'm going to say Hugill because I really want it to be. I love the fact that we've signed a shithouse up top. I love the fact he's got a tattoo with Norwich Cathedral on it already. I love the fact that he's just got a bit of fight. He's got a bit of something about him. And again, I think, that's the sort of player that will keep Timu Pukki well on his toes, by the way. But also I would love to see Daniel Farke playing 2 up top and really asserting ourselves on the opposition. So I'm going to hopefully say Hugill.
And that leaves you, Michael.
I asked Daniel about playing 2 up top with Jordan and Timu. Actually, his answer wasn't particularly committal, which is a disappointment for me as well as you probably, Chris. But we'll see. I do really like Jacob Sorensen. I have to say, there's something really classy about him. I just haven't seen him compete in the Championship yet. And I would say, Jacob, he's not actually much bigger than that. He's not as big as you probably think he is. He's quite a bit slighter. He's quite tall, but just doesn't feel imposing yet. Yeah. But I really I think he's a really classy footballer. So if he clicks, then I think you'll enjoy watching him. But I just think if Kieran Dowell is putting in the effort and pressing the way he's been in pre-season, and that translates into Championship football, then I think Norwich have got a player who is as good as anything they've already got in their front 3 behind the striker, and I think that would be saying something remarkable given the last 2 seasons.
Okay, brilliant. There is your 2020-21 Championship season preview. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Have you got any new sort of coverage plans for the season at the Athletic? What's in the pipeline?
Oh, that's a good question. Loads of good features. The podcast, going to try and do some more videos on my YouTube channel if I can figure out what they're going to be about. But having done the Athletic for a year and really enjoyed it and found my feet, I think we'll just take it on to a slightly different level and make it better based on what we did last year, I think. So it's quite exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, superb. Chris, same to you. What have you got in the pipeline at TNC or elsewhere?
Well, let me just say before we talk about TNC, I really need to, big up the Athletic. The best written content for Norwich City is the Athletic, 100%. It's just so in depth and so interesting as well. I don't read a lot But it has to be the Athletic without a shadow of a doubt. In terms of us, we'll just continue what we're doing as always. We're doing some live streams to try and bring the community of Norwich fans closer together, and we really love having a debate over on the Talk Norwich City Live. So feel free to come on over if you've not already. And yeah, just we'll keep doing what we're doing. We're going to be supporting Big C, a fantastic local cancer charity this season, which I'm really, really proud of. So I'm really
here. Well done, Chris.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bailey. But yeah, also just a big up to you guys as well. Thanks very much for having us both on. Great channel.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming on. It's been good fun. Jacob, do you want to add anything before we go, mate?
Yeah, I just want to kind of blow smoke up of both of your backsides. Michael, obviously, Michael, we've obviously read all of your stuff all over the years, and yeah, always appreciate and kind of in awe when you come on. So we really do appreciate that. Thank you for your time. And Chris, obviously, as a social media person myself, you're great, and you're a class act. Obviously, listening to this, it's just I've actually enjoyed watching this rather than even just talking. I've kind of been lost in it. But yeah, I really appreciate you both coming on. Yeah. Really grateful. Thank you.
Cheers, gents. Keep up the great work.
Cheers. Thank you.
So there you have it. There's your season preview. Thanks very much for listening. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Feel free to drop a comment on about anything you've heard in this video down there. But enjoy the rest of your week, and thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.
On the ball, City.
Yeah.